Good morning, and welcome back to another one of 12-3 Marketing's virtual user groups, our ACT webinars. My name is Stephen Bolden, and today's topic is going to be on ACT companies. And when I'm talking about companies, I mean this company's entity tab over here in the left sidebar, not your classic. We're all aware of the classic company field that we have up here, but you'll notice in our demo database that we broadcast out of that some people's company names are hyperlinked and others are not. And why is that? And what exactly does this companies tab do? So that's a bit about what we're going to go into today. Most people, when they start off by using ACT, begin by making new contact records and they fill out the company name. And that's a great way to start off by using it. But what you can do with ACT companies that was introduced many years ago at this point is they are separate company records that you can create their own, kind of like a contact record, but for companies. They have their own unique fields. For example, a company can have some default fields like a ticker symbol or an industry or any other custom fields you want. And then you can add or remove to associate contacts with that company. The benefits of doing this are that if you want to look up all contacts from one company in one view, you can do it right here. Contacts within a company have a consolidated viewings of all activities going on across all 4 of these contacts from the company's activities tab. They have consolidated opportunities of all opportunities across all contacts with that company. You can view all history for all 4 of these contacts at once in one view for all 4 of the Ace Pet Store employees, as well as all notes. Documents and then these other fields do work a little bit differently, but it's nice having this consolidated view. And when you've created a company record, I can easily make new contacts from this company. So let's say I had a meeting with Ace Pet Store franchises and I met a few other individuals from here and I want to quickly add them to my ACT database. I can easily do that by going to the Ace Pet Store companies record, and I can say under this companies tab, create contact from company. And if I create a contact from a company, you'll see this already conveniently fills out a new contact record for me, filling in the company name. It's already linked, the company phone number, and all of the address information, website, and ID status. And we can customize which of these fields are linked between the company record and the contact, leaving it very easy for me to go ahead and make new contacts here. For Joe Sample, somebody new that I met at the company. And if I met several people, I can sit there and keep repeating this task. Companies make it easy because the hyperlinks between the contact records let you jump between the contact section of ACT and the company section of ACT quickly. So for those of you that don't have any companies set up already, there's a few ways we can create them and turn this feature on and get started with it easily. So let's go to somebody who we already have company information filled out for. For example, I see Boomers Artworks here. And looks like we already have a company for Boomers, but with an apostrophe in the name. Instead of, then there's a Boomers without. This is the ACT demo database, so I'm not surprised to see a little bit of discrepancy here. What we can do is double click on one of these contact records, and to associate the contact with an existing company that we've already made, I can click on this little ellipsis icon, the 3 dots next to the company field. It will bring up a list of all companies in my database, and I can choose which one I want to associate them with. And it will correct the name for me automatically. This is also especially helpful because if you ever want to update a company's name to keep it standardized or update their address, then all of these linked fields can trickle down and update all of the associated contacts. Now that was great if we already had the company formed and created, but if we don't have a company in the list, then what do? Well, we could certainly go to the companies section, and just like creating a new contact, you can create a new company manually. If I say new company and fill this out, then certainly that's one way to do it. I'll call this one sample company. And I could fill out all of this other information as appropriate. Now when I go to associate a contact, sure enough, my sample company is in the list, But that's way too time consuming to go through every one of the contacts in your database and manually create a company for them, fill all of that out, and then associate it. The easier way to do it, if you have a contact and there's no existing company for it already, like let me check out American Dreams, for example, see if they made a company for this one. They did not. I do not have a company record for American Dreams in my demo database. So what I can do easily, if I wanted to associate this, is just like I did from the company side. You saw when I went to companies and said create contact from company, to take a company record and create a contact record from it. We do the same thing in reverse. From the contact record, you can go to contacts and say create company from contact. And just like that, it creates a new company record, associates Christy with it, and pulls over all of the linked fields. Pretty neat. I can then be free to go back to my list view and take Haley here, and I can associate her by clicking this ellipsis icon. And if it does find the company name with a verbatim exact match in the list already, it pre-selects it for you, and I can hit OK, making it easy to start get use out of this feature. Now, if sometimes when I work with some of my customers, some of the people in this list, for example, that are in this session right now, if I know that there's a note on one of these company records at American Dreams, but I don't remember whose contact I put it under, I can just look at their company record instead and click on the notes, and I'll see all the notes across all the contacts. This is a bad example. There's no notes on these, but if I threw a quick note onto Christie's record here, then in the future when I'm looking at the American Dreams company record, I'll see all notes across all contacts at once. Pretty useful and a good way to get started with this. In version 16, I believe it was, V16, that came out in 2014, they added a feature called Automated Company Management, and you'll find that by going to Tools and Preferences. I do recommend making a backup of your database before trying this feature out. To make a backup, you can always go to File and Backup Database and take a backup copy of your data file. Smart Act users will be using the Act Scheduler. You can see another one of my videos for using that to have automated backups going on every night. To turn on Automated Company Management, you go under Tools and Preferences, and it's all the way over here at the Admin tab. You do need to be an Act administrator to do this. Under the Admin tab on your Preferences, there's Company Preferences down here. And they have a feature called Company Creation, where you can automatically create a new company when a certain threshold number of contacts have been created that have that company name. So for example, if I set this as 2, then what it will do is find anywhere in my database where there are 2 contacts with the same exact, precise, verbatim company name, then it will create a company and link them automatically. So it's a really easy way to turn this on and get using it if you haven't been using this for all of the time you've been an Act user. You could also do it with 1, but sometimes, like we saw in the case of like Boomers, for example, here, if I did set this to 1, Boomers without the apostrophe might end up being created as its own separate company. So it's not always reliable. And it's a good way to get started, but you probably will have most likely some manual cleanup to do after, because naturally different employees enter company names differently. But if I set this as 2 and say, okay, it's going to say that 19 new companies have been detected and will be created. I'll proceed. Give it a moment. And refresh. I'll press View All Contacts again. And boom, I've got some new companies that were made, like at Bodega's Bodacious Bird. Funny name there. But this got me created all of my new companies here within my database to link my contacts between. Now, people ask about if they're a very company-focused business. A lot of people are not contact-focused. If you're a business-to-business industry that deals primarily with companies as your main points of contact, should you be using the company records instead? And it's a good question, because the situation can be different in a lot of instances. Act is intended that every contact record under the contact section should be an individual person. A lot of people will fill out a company name here and leave the individual contact blank because in their line of work, they don't deal with individuals as much as they do with the companies. This is really something to consider based on what works the easiest for you. If you have a company record, and you can have a blank company record with no contacts associated with it, for example, my sample company that I made, but if I want to schedule a new activity, then I can't actually schedule an activity with a company record. I can only schedule them with contacts. So having company records in here without contacts associated can be helpful for storing a lot of data in many instances, but if you plan on using your ACT calendar, then maybe it is best to stick with the contact section of ACT and have a blank contact that I could call sample company. Oops, put that in the company field and not in the contact field, and save that up. It's automatically linked to the company because it found the name for me. It found that that one already exists, and now I could schedule an activity with them. As now I have a contact associated with the company. You can also have sub-companies. Every company in your database can have divisions. So if I break down this sample company CH Holding, for example, and you'll see a sub-companies and sub-sub-companies or divisions for different people that are associated with each. When you associate a contact with a division or a sub-company, they are automatically associated with the parent company as well. So for example, if you were doing work with General Electric, and they of course have many locations in many areas, you could have a parent company for their overall organization, and then the sub-companies underneath that show the individual breakdowns of the headquarters that different people work at with their own addresses and their own locations in the address fields. To create a new division, you can simply right-click on a company and go to the New Division tab. And it takes me to the new company record, and I can say sample company division 1, and save it up. And now I have a sub-company division. And if I wanted to associate a new contact, for example, I'll go back to this sample company division 1. I'll say create contact from company the same way as before. And I'll call this one sample contact 2. Now I have my sample contact here in my division. Point of correction, actually. So it does not automatically associate them upwards, but if I want to manually associate the contacts, I can go to this Add or Remove Contacts button for the company parent record under Add/Remove. And just like you do with groups, we can define dynamic criteria to say everybody with sample company in their name is automatically a member of this parent company. That will cause it to automatically trickle upward. If I were to say, for example, field name company is equal to, or rather I'll say contains sample company. For more information on using these dynamic criteria and rule setting for creating your groups, then you should see one of my other videos. I'll link that in the description below about the groups and creating groups with dynamic criteria. It's a really great refresher for everybody else that should be using ACT groups as well. So this way we have our nice company organized hierarchy, and it makes it very easy in the future that when I want to do work with a company, I can simply create a contact from the company in order to keep them all married together. When you're creating an opportunity, it is possible as well to create a new opportunity, and rather than associating this opportunity with a contact record, you can associate it with a company instead. So if I go to Add or Remove Contacts, even though it's under the Contact section, I could go under Companies, and here's a list of all of my companies here. now I have it broken down so that if I want to quickly say that I want to associate everybody from bodegas, bodacious pets, for example, I can look them up easily in this list and add them in there. And you'll see that they're related from this opportunities tab to both the contacts and the companies. And if I go back under my companies and check out bodegas, they have the opportunity that I made. So that you can track not only your opportunities for all contacts, but all companies at once. We have a question in the chat. Stephen says, I am confused when sending emails to subgroups, sometimes sending duplicate emails. Groups are a little bit different, Stephen. It actually works very similar to companies. In a lot of ways, companies and groups are very similar in what they do. A company record is almost nothing more than a group of contacts. They're very similar, but they do have them broken down into their own entity just for some different functions you can use between them. When you're sending emails to subgroups, sometimes sending duplicate emails, I would say that I would probably explore in your case that some of your group rules that you've defined for maybe manually adding or dynamically adding contacts have some type of overlaps between them. Although I know that your emails that you send out in particular, you have you sometimes do your mail merges in bulk to your groups by using your templates, and it's not always good form. When you're doing something like that, I'd say that using active marketing is a good way to prevent duplicate emails, because you can send out an active marketing email blast to many people at once, like thousands upon thousands, and it will do a duplicate scan for you first, and also help prevent your domain from being blacklisted. Subgroups and subcompanies, you're not really going to run a risk of duplicate contacts there unless you have some type of overlap between them. It is worth mentioning that when you go to send out an email merge, you do have a function here when you're going through your mail merge settings that you can send it to a current lookup, contact, or a selected company instead. Very similar to sending to a selected group. So I'm glad that you brought that up. If you'd like to know more about companies, this is probably the 4th time I've done this session in the past few years. We do have some other videos that maybe you could rewatch to see it presented in a different way. I know that Jeff has done this topic as well. Maybe you want him as a better teacher. You can find those. I'll link them as well. These virtual user groups that I'm filming every Tuesday morning, I like to come up with new topics as often as I can, but you know, after a year or two, I suppose I'm going to have to start repeating some of them. So I do request that you guys suggest as many topics as you'd like to see, and I will get them done for you. Thank you for attending, and if we have any questions, I'll take them now.